Welcome back, and if you're someone who loves cars with a story, you are going to enjoy this one. In this video, you're getting a complete review and a full understanding of the 1965 Citroën DS21. Everything that matters: the exterior design, the interior, the technology of its time, how it performs, what it actually feels like to drive, how practical it really was, its strengths, its weaknesses, what it cost, whether it was worth the money, and how it stacked up against the biggest names it was competing with. So stay until the end, because by the time this video is done, you won't just know facts about this car, you'll understand why it still matters. Picture a quiet street sometime in the mid-1960s. Engines rumbling past in predictable, boxy shapes. And then this one glides by. Low, smooth, almost floating over the road like it doesn't belong to the same era as everything around it. That's the feeling we're chasing today, because before we talk about anything else, we need to actually experience this car the way someone would have back then. Step by step, the way you'd approach it for the very first time. You walk up to it first, and already something feels different. The body doesn't sit rigid and boxy like its rivals. It curves, it flows, almost like it was shaped by wind rather than drawn by a pencil. The front end tucks in narrow, the roofline arcs back in one continuous motion, and the rear tapers into that unmistakable teardrop shape that made engineers everywhere stop and ask how this was even possible in 1955. Let alone still look this advanced a decade later in this 1965 model. You reach for the door handle, and it's not just opening a door, it's stepping into a shape that genuinely looked like it arrived from 20 years in the future. Now you lower yourself into the seat, and here's where the story really begins. Because the DS21 doesn't just look different, it behaves differently. Before you've even turned the key. The seats are soft, almost armchair-like, wrapped in a way that prioritizes comfort over stiffness, which tells you everything about what this car was built for. It wasn't built to feel sporty in a parking lot. It was built to make long journeys feel effortless. The cabin is airy, thanks to that expansive glass area. Visibility stretches in every direction, and the single-spoke steering wheel sits there almost like a piece of art, rather than a mechanical necessity. For a car of this era, the layout feels intentional, thoughtful, almost like someone actually imagined what a human being needs to feel calm behind the wheel. Instead of just building a box with controls in it, you turn the key and the engine wakes up, a four-cylinder unit, not enormous in output, not chasing raw power, but that was never the point. As the revs settle, something else happens that no other car of this time was doing quite like this. The hydro-pneumatic suspension system begins pressurizing, and the entire car slowly rises off its resting position, like it's taking a breath before standing up. This wasn't just a party trick. It was Citroën solving a problem nobody else had really solved yet. How to make a car float over rough roads instead of crashing through them. Now you pull out into the city, and this is where the DS21 starts making its case in the real world. Broken pavement, potholes, uneven cobblestones, all of it gets absorbed by that self-leveling suspension in a way that genuinely surprised people used to a much harsher ride. Passengers in the back barely feel the imperfections in the road. In terms of technology for its time, this is the real story. Hydraulic power steering that required barely a fingertip to turn. Hydraulic assistance for the brakes, and even the clutch on many versions. Engineering choices that reduced fatigue on long drives in a way competitors hadn't even attempted yet. Safety wasn't expressed through sensors and warning chimes back then. It was expressed through physics. And the DS21 leaned into that, with a low center of gravity, predictable handling, and some of the most advanced braking behavior of its era. at a time when the very idea of a dedicated driver assistance system was still decades away. As the roads open up and the city fades behind you, the character of the car shifts again. On a flowing open road, the DS21 settles into its natural habitat. It doesn't want to be thrown around corners aggressively. It wants to glide, to smooth out imperfections, to make an hours-long drive feel almost meditative rather than exhausting. The steering feels light, maybe even too light for some drivers expecting more resistance, but once you adjust to its rhythm, you start to understand this was never meant to feel like a sports car. It was meant to feel like effortless motion, like the road itself had less say in how comfortable your journey would be. Of course, no honest ride-along skips the parts that weren't perfect. That ultra-light steering could feel disconnected to drivers who wanted more road feedback. The hydraulic systems, while brilliant, required specialized maintenance that not every mechanic of the time could confidently handle, which became a real consideration for ownership. And against rivals like the Mercedes-Benz W111 or the Jaguar Mark X, both of which offered a more traditional, familiar driving character, the DS21 asked buyers to accept something genuinely unconventional, which not everyone was ready to do. In terms of price, it sat in a premium bracket, competing directly with respected established names. And that made the decision to buy one less about badge comfort and more about believing in something ahead of its time. Now, as we bring the car to a stop and the engine settles, the hydraulic system slowly lowers the body back down, almost like it's exhaling after the journey. And that's when the full picture becomes clear. This wasn't simply a car, it was an argument, a bold claim that comfort, innovation, and design could matter just as much as raw performance. Some rivals were faster in a straight line. Some felt more traditional and predictable. But few, if any, made passengers feel as cared for, as gently carried, as the DS21 did. Stepping out of it, engine off, door closing behind you, there's a quiet respect that settles in, the kind you don't get from every classic. This was a car that dared to be different when different was risky, and decades later, that decision still echoes through automotive design. If this ride-along gave you a real feel for what made the 1965 Citroën DS21 special, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you enjoyed experiencing this journey, and subscribe for more stories like this one, because there are plenty of remarkable cars still waiting to be rediscovered.